Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. With me, I have a writer, director, producer, actor, and coach whose professional career began at 15 and includes an award-winning film and television productions. He's also the author of The Actor's Mindset, Acting as a Craft, Discipline, and Business. Craig Archibald, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Hi, Dave. Thank you.
Pleasure. It's my pleasure, Craig. And so you got this book out. It looks like it's a mindset book, and I've written one based on my former career, which is a firefighter. So I was a real life fighter. I wasn't acting, by the way. I've done one movie, but only as an extra. But we'll be on the same page there when we kind of compare notes. And obviously, it's all generic, to people out there. But we'll keep it injury specific to what you do as well. Well, I'm quite intrigued about your career, what you've done, because you're also a coach like me, about, kind of doing resilience coaching. I was a sports person, so I've been around coaches anyway since a kid. So we can swap notes there as well. And let's talk about you. So what was what's your humble beginnings like before you even became an actor or whatever, in this world?
Humble beginnings start in a place called Saskatchewan, Canada, which is a very large province in Canada, full of farming communities. And I started off there and happily and luckily found the theater when I was 11 years old and began acting and just threw my heart into it. From the beginning, I was a storyteller. I did, the local amateur theater group plays and musicals, and found my way eventually to being a professional by the time I was 15, and did well enough to put myself through college and got a theater degree from the University of Saskatchewan, and had a lot of expat British folks that were my professors, and they suggested that I go to London to study acting. And so I came to London and worked in London for 2 years, basically on and off, studying privately, but also had a job at the Royal National Theatre as an usher, where I had the pleasure of watching many great performers doing many great plays. And so I worked in London for 2 years, and then finally decided that I didn't have the wherewithal about the American method of acting, or the Stanislavski system, as it's called.
Not method acting.
Well, the British weren't doing it back in the 80s. That wasn't a big deal. I think Maggie Smith called it masturbation. I think that was the name for it.
All right.
As only Maggie Smith can say.
I was going to say, it's fine coming from a lady, isn't it, really? So.
Yeah, really. But I think that the British schools did start working with the method in the 90s, or late 80s and early 90s, which is why we get great actors like Tom Hardy and Benedict Cumberbatch, and your current crop of great British actors, the Josh O'Connors, that are doing great work. The Claire Foys, they I think have more of a grasp of the method, the Stanislavski system, than they were teaching in the 1980s when I was in London. So I had to move to New York to learn the system, and so I moved to New York and studied at a place called the Neighborhood Playhouse, where a guy named Sanford Meisner, who created the Meisner technique, was still teaching. So I had the great luck to actually work with Sandy Meisner and learn from one of the master teachers of the last century. And so I worked with him and studied there and graduated from there, and then began my professional career. I became a member of the Actors Studio, national tours, and worked from Broadway, off-Broadway, and awful. I did everything I could to work in New York, and worked my way into small television roles, and film career started, and started to write my own plays. And finally, after 4 attempts, a play that I wrote did very well and was produced off-Broadway, and then was produced out here in Los Angeles a couple of times. And that sort of broke the door open for me into the real world of work. And I started writing screenplays. I wrote one here at Warner Brothers, and then began producing for the History Channel in New York City. And then I just sort of branched out and continued to act and write and produce and direct and do all those things. And along the way, somehow, I started coaching and coaching my friends, helping them get ready for their auditions. And as I did that, the word got out that I was good at it. And so coaching became my sort of standby job that I did to, instead of being a waiter, right? So coaching stopped being a waiter in between jobs.
Well,
And
it's a little bit better paid as well, and it sounds much better than the waiter, I think.
and also a little bit more, yeah, exactly, a little bit more of a good moral or heart place to be coming from, right? Like a good centered human place to be coming from. God bless all the waiters and waitresses out there, because serving is a difficult position to be in. So I love our bartenders and our waiters, and the service industry is really to be beloved. But I worked there for a long time, but found my way out through coaching. And, it was sort of jack of all trades in and out of Los Angeles and New York for, a good 10 years. And finally, I made my permanent move to Los Angeles in 2006. And I moved from the West Village of Manhattan to Malibu. And it was a very big change in my life. And I looked at the ocean for a couple of months when I got here, and I thought, what do I really want to do? Where's my happy point? And where am I going to be the best at serving the world and being the best I can be? And I looked at coaching and thought, I really love coaching. I love helping young actors. And really, at the center of my work is my art form, right? I love acting. I love actors. That's been the center of my life, my whole life. That's the center theme through the whole thing. And so as a coach, I run my own business, which means that I don't have to audition and take meetings as much as I used to. And I also get to celebrate every day with my young actors the work that we do, and with my big professional movie stars, I get to get them ready for the big shows that we see in the theaters and on Netflix and Hulu and all that fun stuff. So I've found myself at this place where I've got a really lovely work gig. I will act when I get the opportunities. I produce films. I've just written this book. So I keep working as an artist myself. I keep creating. But at the same time, I have this opportunity to help the next generation of actors get ready for the industry.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a good journey to have. And as I say, my thing was sports, and obviously I became a firefighter, but did sports as a kind of, second job or a side hustle, but it's not a bad thing. I did track and field, but I did it like Olympic trials and things like that. Been around coaches, but now I'm doing more coaching, mindset type thing, which is kind of what your book's about. So let's talk about that. What was the inspiration to begin writing this book, and why now?
Well, a couple of years ago, a buddy of mine asked me if I was, recording what I was coaching. And so I started to take notes and write down a few things that I was saying. And then over time, other people said, hey, do you have a book? A book became sort of a focus. And I looked around at the other coaches that were out there and said, oh, well, I guess this is part of being a coach, is getting the word out about the industry, but also my particular mindset about the industry. And so I started writing the book, and it took a good long time. I mean, I worked on this for about 10 years, off and on.
The book?
Yeah, I worked on the book for about...
Sorry, I almost spilled my coffee there.
Yeah, believe me, I spilled my coffee many times because it was so much work, and also I was working a full-time job, So I took many vacations off. We celebrate Thanksgiving here on July 4th.
Yeah.
So I would take those off and go and write up in a cabin in the woods for 4 days at a time. And then, in the process of writing, I'd never written a book before, and I'd written narrative before, but I'd never written something like this, which is more of a how-to and more of a technical book. So I needed to get inside of that brain set and get inside of that and get better at my writing as well. And then that it takes time once you've finished the first draft. From the first draft to the actual publication is a long road. And so that took a good 4 years. And then we went through COVID as well. So now we're on the other side of it, and the book has come out. And so that's where it came from, and the inspiration really is about helping young actors get clear on their road ahead of them, because there's a lot of what I call the purple haze around acting. People are like, ooh, you're going to figure this out eventually if you just keep working at it. And I thought that was baloney. I thought that that wasn't really fair. And a lot of the lessons that I learned along the road of my career was a lot of things that people could have told me. And so I've put into this book a lot of the secrets that I've learned so that my young actors don't have to go through the same thing. Now, I know that your audience isn't all actors, and there's a lot of people out there that are doing other jobs.
Oh, but I've had quite a few actors on this show.
Oh,
So
good.
I'm sure some will be listening, when they've promoted a show out. So
Yeah, wonderful. And my point is that there is crossover in this book to the normal people, regular people that are working full-time jobs. Because what's at the heart of the book is the mindset with which you live your life, and how you look at your life, and what your mindset and the daily practices that you do that give you opportunity to be your best, so that your life is at its best.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as I say, I've written a similar book, but it's more of a kind of like self-help memoir type thing. So it's short read, really.
That sounds like mine as well.
Oh, right, okay.
You'll have
Well,
some.
I mean, let's talk about yours still because I don't want to keep promoting mine or anything like that. People know about mine, obviously, with listeners. The title of your book is An Actor's Mindset, which includes a craft, discipline, and business. And a business. Can you describe first why you included those topics and how they impact the actor's career?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the three parts of that are essential. First of all, the craft. You have to be disciplined. You have to have the craft, and you have to have a business know-how, right? I mean, that's just the three basic sections. So understanding the craft first and being able to dive in and know the levels of the craft. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't really, a lot of actors and a lot of acting schools that don't go into all three sections of what is necessary to have a successful career. And so we do talk about the craft and the discipline and the business, because if you don't have all three pieces working together, you're not going to have the success that is out there for you. It's kind of obviously three steps. First you learn the technique, right? Then you get your technique down, and then you learn the craft of that technique and make sure that you're working at your best and how you be your best. And then you've also got to be a business person. And a lot of artists are afraid of business. A lot of artists, whatever kind of artists, they think that business is numbers and money and planning and business meetings, and we shy away from things like contracts and
Well,
lawyers.
it's like music. Music, they call it the music business, don't they? Really,
Right. Yeah,
they
the
don't add that word business to acting, but it is the same thing, isn't it?
Well, they call it the entertainment industry,
Oh,
right?
right, exactly. It's all the same, isn't it? It's all under the
Showbiz.
same umbrella.
It's showbiz, baby.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that most artists are attracted to the show part, right? And because we're storytellers, and there's a
Yeah.
sensitivity and a vulnerability to be an artist, and because there's that sensitive vulnerability, you have to sort of allow yourself this sort of soft center, which is not very common in the business world, right? And we focus less in the brain and more in the heart. That's where our work comes from. The best music, the best art, the best acting, the best poetry, the best writing, all comes from the heart. And so we train in the heart. And so when it comes to the business side of things, we often give our business managers, our agents, our lawyers, our managers or agents, the people that run our business, we give them sort of the power to take over and run things. And that's a big mistake, because you have to be an entrepreneur, and you have to have the entrepreneur mindset, or else you're going to get messed up. It's going to definitely not going to work as best it could. And so that's part of what I want my clients and my audience here to understand, is that there's more than one level to it. And at the center of it, Dave, is really the difference between being a champion or being a victim. And I have found over the years that it's very easy to be a victim. It's very easy to say, oh, poor me, life is so hard. This went wrong, that went wrong. And from the beginning of our lives, when we are a victim, we very often get a lot of love and attention from our parents and from teachers, aunts and uncles and grandparents about, oh, it's so difficult. Life is so difficult. So you can get a situation where young actors, young people are leaning into the victim mindset. which is, everything's so hard. And I try to change that up and say, hey, listen, you've got to be a master at this. You've got to be a pro. You've got to be a champion. And so I say that I create champions at my studio because we focus on all the different areas. We focus on the discipline, we focus on the craft, and we focus on the business. So you are completely ready for all levels of the industry. And so that's the title of the book.
Yeah. Well, it's a good title anyway, that's for certain. What was your favourite part about creating this book from start to finish? I know you said, you explained, writing it, so that was quite a toll, 10 years. But what was the most challenging part, and what was your favourite part about creating it from start to finish?
Favorite part probably was the joy of being creative, right? Like that, just taking the time to step away from the office and go out into a cabin in the woods and be creative about the book and find my way to speaking, the truth and hope that it would help other people. And the most challenging was actually, to be honest with you, was my lack of confidence in my own writing. I had a pretty severe professor back at the University of Saskatchewan who did not like my writing and basically told me that I could not write and that I wasn't a writer and that I would never be a writer. And that was stuck in my head for a long time, and it made me shy about writing, and it made me question myself. When I started writing the plays in the 1990s, that sort of broke me open because it was more of a narrative than actual. You didn't have to have good grammar to write a play. You had to speak like people speak. And I'd studied so many plays and I'd done so many plays that it was easy to do that. So getting over that fear of writing and my own grammar really was the challenging part, and finding the time to be able to do it, particularly when all you want to do is, sit down and grab a bowl of popcorn and watch Netflix.
Yeah. Well, I like Netflix though.
Yeah, right.
I don't watch it much, but I like it when I do watch it.
I like the Netflix and I like the chill, the whole about that.
Yeah. Well, it's actually big business now, isn't it? Really, that and
absolutely.
Apple. Sorry, not Apple. Well, Apple a little bit. Amazon, more Amazon and Netflix tend to be the two that's getting all the kind of entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Now.
Hulu and Amazon.
Quite interesting. Yeah. So, when you first meet an actor or client, what are the defining traits of a strong actor's mindset versus a weak actor's mindset?
Well, I kind of touched on that already.
Okay.
It's actually the champion or the victim, right? Like that's that's the first thing that I look for, Dave. Yeah. Right? Like, where is this client's mindset? Right? What are they thinking? How are they thinking about the industry? Because there's a huge difference between being a person that's waiting for something to happen for them. Oh, I've got an agent, I've got a manager, I'm waiting for my auditions, versus someone leaning into being creative and making their career happen themselves, right? So that's the first thing that I look for. Changing that mindset, as I said earlier, is so profoundly important. Getting actors out of the place of being the victim and waiting, because actors are judged all the time, right? They put their auditions in and then they don't get the part, and then they put their audition
and it's like 9 out of 10 no's, isn't it? Really?
Oh, absolutely, and it could be more, right? Like it could be 30 no's to one win, right? And sometimes worse. So there's definitely this sense of I don't have power. And so what I always try to do is empower my clients and get them to the place where they feel that they can be their own creative soul, and that what they have to say is important, and that they can be part of the conversation in the world that we're living in right now. It's a particularly difficult time, and so it's great for people to have hope and humor and be creatively inspired to do their best to help everyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you mentioned, during it is difficult times. It is difficult times now, actually, but obviously during COVID, it was very, very punishing towards, the sports and entertainment industry, or anyone that had to rely on, being out amongst crowds, really. So that book came, and still is, out at the right time, really, for people, really. So,
thank you. Yes, we're happy to have it out there.
Yeah, you've had a lot of long-time celebrity clients. What's been the most memorable moments that you've experienced with them in their career?
Wow, there's a lot. I could tell you that's a whole other book I could probably go to.
All right, just give us a little snapshot then, maybe one or two that comes to mind.
I mean, well, clearly, I have a client named Constance Wu, who you may know from a movie called Crazy Rich Asians, and she
Yeah.
also,
Oh yeah, I watched that on the plane actually, but when it first came, well, when it was roughly,
when it came out, yeah.
yeah.
She also did an American television show called Fresh Off the Boat.
All right. Was she the girl that was in love that went to Singapore?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you.
The character was Rachel Chu, and she was
Yeah.
She was in love with she didn't know he was the rich guy.
Rich. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, for the audience that don't know, just watch it.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was your client. That's great. That's big. That's huge.
And that was no spoilers there. We didn't spoil anything. It's actually a really cute, fun movie that I'm very proud to be a part of.
Right.
And I was a part of it through Constance. And when Constance first met me, she was still a waitress working here in Los Angeles. And we had the fun of working together and building her career. And then she got Fresh Off the Boat, which was a television show, as I said. And then Crazy Rich Asians came along. And, we didn't know at the time that it was going to become what it was, because it was quite a phenomenon. It was the #1 movie in the world for 3 weeks straight in the summer of 2018.
Yeah.
And so
It won an Oscar, didn't it?
I'm not sure.
Nominated.
It was nominated for,
Okay,
she got nominated for a Golden Globe. And that was, to take an actor and work with them from being a waitress to being at the Golden Globe Awards. That's a pretty
Huge.
great stretch. Yeah.
Well, I mean, she was an actor, but she's an unemployed actor. That way. Well, working as a waitress, like you said.
Yeah, but I always tell people when we get to this sort of question is that that's joyful and that's fun. And red carpets is, it's sort of the seductive side of the industry, is that there's these red carpets and, cameras and celebrity and fame and all of these things that people think are so special and wonderful. And for me, the special and wonderful part is the actual working with my artists and getting into the moments and understanding the nuances and being creative within the work that we do. I get more joy working with my clients in the preparation for the roles than I actually get from any of the red carpets. And I think it's true for most actors. I mean, I think there's an element of salesmanship that's on a red carpet that is sort of unattractive, but necessary. And so we do it. But I think that our joy comes from being in the moment of creativity. And it's really what I focus on. And so when people say, what are your most memorable moments in your career as a coach? I've had some amazing, wonderful moments here in my studio with young actors when they make that breakthrough, when they discover that they can emotionally connect to themselves and make that breakthrough, or when we're working on a big time movie and my client is finding deeper and deeper connections to the role so that when they get in front of that big movie camera, they have a great time fulfilling the role.
Yeah, well, it's really, I mean, as I say, it's only a snapshot of your celebrities. So I'm sure we can talk about it another time if you ever want to come on the show again.
We can do a whole book on that, yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk about the topic of what your book's about, which is more the mindset. So do you notice any marked differences in the mindset of your celebrity clients versus the clients that are struggling to find work in the entertainment industry?
Not really. I mean, successful or not, they're remarkably similar, right? Success tends to simplify and amplify one's true character, right? And that can be a good thing or a bad thing, right? So crazy is crazy. If someone is off center, then that's not a good thing. And so you have to have the mindset in the center. There's a lot of people are attracted to success, and so we get the Instagram stars, right, who are just simply being celebrated because of how they look, and that's a whole other ballgame. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about an art form, and so it's important to learn that your mindset of how you look at the world, at your art, at your business, that is paramount. Like, that is the most important thing, because it dictates your everyday, right? If you have a good morning practice or a good evening practice that you're putting into action. If you have wonderful habits, right? Habits have a compound interest effect in the same way that money does. You know how we put our money in the bank and it gets that compound interest? Well, good habits have the same effect. So when you show up for your life with a great habit skill set, and you show up on a regular basis, you go to the gym, you take care of yourself, you meditate, you do your yoga, you eat well, you sleep well, you take care of yourself, you take care of your loved ones, and you take care of your art form, you're going to be in a much better place than people that don't have that going on, right? And to be a successful artist, and frankly, to be successful in life, you have to be living into your best self. And if you are able to do that, if your mindset leads you to that success, the problems that do appear will become secondary, and you'll have things like a crisis management plan, right? Where you're ready for crisis and you're not afraid of crisis. Instead of being afraid of the arrows that come in every day, because we get arrows every day in our lives. You know, sometimes you drop your cell phone and you crack the screen, and that's a small arrow in your day. Other days, you know, a loved one ends up in the hospital, and that's a harder day, right? If you have, this is just a small example of a mindset change, but if you have a way of dealing with a crisis before there is a crisis, you will be more set up for success, right? The best producers in Hollywood, the best producers that I've worked with, are all problem solvers before the problem happens. Right. And so that's how I try to get my clients.
So it's like having a contingency plan before it happens, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Having that
risk assessment, kind of.
Absolutely. Those are the right words. It's all the same thing. And of course, that goes across to anybody that's an entrepreneur, anybody that's a business person, anybody that works anywhere. You know,
well, I say that because that's what we do as firefighters as well. So we'll have these kind of things. Something goes wrong, we definitely have to know what to do. So.
Well, that's a great example. I think I'm going to have to write that in my notes, you know, because, well, first responders have to have that, you know, the idea of, if this happens, we'll do this. If that happens, we'll do this.
Yeah, that's right.
And so but that is the key to success. If you ask me what the key to success is, you know, that is really, truthfully, what is important, Dave, is having that sort of mindset of all of the ideas, but thinking ahead of things before they happen. That's just the simple truth, that is going to make you a more successful firefighter and a more successful actor.
Yeah. Oh, or anyway, I'm successful for anything, really, if you like to think about it. Really.
Yeah, a successful human. Right, exactly.
So what do you hope that artists or anyone listening to this show from all you know, walks of life and careers or whatever will walk away with after reading The Actor's Mindset?
Well, I would hope that they'd have an inspiration to take a look at their lives and to really investigate themselves and to sit down and say, you know, who do I want to be and how do I want to live my life? And whether you're a shopkeeper or a salesperson or an artist or a firefighter, you know, looking at your life and seeing what is going right and what is positive and what is not, and how can I make those changes? And by being disciplined and being focused and knowing the different aspects of life, and whether it's the technique or the disciplines or the business or the ins and outs of finances, whatever you want to look at, all of the elements of life, if you're thinking ahead of time, if you're looking at life and seeing it before it happens, then you're going to be in a situation where you can handle things. And the problem, you know, everybody's happy when we're in a happy zone, right? But the problem happens when you get hit by an arrow. And I also think that there's a real difference between the ego side of our brains and the sort of soul side of our brains. You know, the ego side is very concerned about ourselves. And the ego takes care of us and looks out for us and gives us the strength to walk through the door with confidence. But it also can be kind of damaging because it can also be kind of selfish and why not me and I want this and me first mentality. Whereas the soulful side of us, you know, happens when we're watching a sunset or dancing to our favorite music or, you know, loving a loved one. And I tend to think that the more you can balance those two elements in life, the more successful you're going to be. And I believe that in the essence of my book is that message. I don't really say it, Dave. I don't have a section where I actually say that. But what I'm you know, proposing in this book, that the more balanced you can make your life, the more you can be aware of the things that are going on around you, the more you are going to have a successful and happier life. Doesn't mean that it's Pollyanna and everything works out beautifully, but what it does do is it sets you up to succeed more than fail.
I totally agree with that, Craig. Totally agree. And before we go, could you just tell our audience, listeners, where they can find out where they can get your book and more about your work?
Oh, sure. Well, I have a studio here in Los Angeles, and I also do seminars in New York, and I can't wait to come to England and do a couple of seminars in London. That would be great to
Absolutely,
return.
you're always welcome here anytime.
Well, thank you. I honestly haven't returned since I've left in 1985. So
That's a long time, yeah.
It is a long time, and I look forward to being back in London and having that fun. So yeah, we do the seminars. And you can find my book anywhere that good books are sold, and particularly I know for sure it's on Amazon, both in the United States and in the UK and around the world. So
great, Craig. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. I've really thoroughly enjoyed the chat with you today, and obviously comparing notes, which obviously quite matched up with what we were talking about. So that's really great. So yeah, thanks a lot once again for coming on the show today.
Fantastic, Dave. Thank you for having me.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.